With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
So far, a spectacular Saturday.
Yes, it's beautiful out. It's supposed to be pouring rain, but it's not, so this is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to call in, but the Queensway opened. Otherwise, I was just going to call in.
Oh, that's so lazy.
I like working from home.
So lazy.
I like working from home. What's wrong with that?
Stop. Stop.
No, you know what? What happened? I was out of the city for 3 days this week, but wasn't the Queensway supposed to close?
It was supposed to close, but because of all the rain, they changed it.
Oh, okay.
Is that why they changed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much rain. Good time to look for a place and see if the basements are good.
Absolutely. I mean, if you, we actually had a listing that hit that day. What day was that? Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah, we had a really nice high end listing that hit that day, and we had an agent in there with their client, and I got a text with pictures saying you may want to tell your seller to get home quick. Had a major leak in the roof, come right through down.
No.
Oh yeah, and we just hit the market. Like I think that was the first showing on it.
So
and this was
needless to say, it's off the market now?
It's off the market right now. But needless to say, it was $1 million plus home. Gorgeous, great shape. Just unfortunate. Maybe it's the way the rain was coming in. But you know what? At least the seller now knows and can rectify the problem and fix it. And not hand it off to somebody else who then it happens to them. And then all of a sudden now the seller's in a lawsuit because he didn't divulge that. So
what's $1 million plus home now? 2-bedroom?
No, Ottawa, not Toronto, Ottawa.
Well, you say that, but there was a really interesting article that came out this week. It was by Zukasa, and it was talking about Canadians earning medium income can afford to buy, like what you can afford to buy across Canada. And interestingly enough, Ottawa has the highest median income in the whole country. And they're talking about, what you can afford with that based on, what is it usually 4 to 5 times your income. In Ottawa, the max affordability is $491,000, where the average sale price is $650,000.
Wow.
So, but there was most of the cities were like that. There was only a couple cities that were actually, you could actually afford to buy a home.
So $491, does that mean the mortgage is at $491?
Well, that would mean probably what they're approved for. Usually it's 4 to 5 times your income usually.
No. 3 to 4 now.
3 to
it used
4.
to be 4 to 5 when rates were reasonable. Now it's 3 to 4. Some people it's 3.
Well, if they say the median,
which isn't a lot.
If they say the median income is 106 and they're saying the max affordability is 491, so they're using 4 and a bit of their income to be able to come up with that number. But when the average sale price is 652 or 650 in Ottawa,
so we have a higher median income than they do in Toronto.
Toronto was only we're at 106. We were the only city that's over $100,000 for a median income. Toronto was at 85. So Toronto is so backwards and so underwater. I mean, when you look at Toronto, their median income is 85,000, and their affordability would be 395. Well, their average sale price is 1.2. So they're like way underwater trying to be able to afford a home.
So you would need a double salary to get you to 170, and what would that get you?
For 170?
Yeah, if you have income of 170 grand.
Depends on your debt load, and depends on your down payment, obviously. But
what would it get you in Toronto? Not much.
Nothing.
In Toronto, you can't. Probably not, because in Toronto, the problem in Toronto is that anything you buy that's over $1 million or up, you have to have 20% down. It's not insurable. So that's where the problem arises.
I thought they were going to change that.
They're talking about changing it, but because of the circumstances, I don't think it's going to matter to change it now anyway, because if you're buying a house for $1.2 million with 5% down or 10% down, well, your income's got to be $250,000 to qualify. Not many people are in that range.
Wow. Well, when they talk about Ottawa being the affordability, max affordability, $491,000, we're not even talking a townhome. We're talking a small condo for $491,000. So it's just reading through this article, just the way prices have gone, the way mortgages are, and the way incomes haven't gone up as fast as prices. That's for sure, right?
I wonder what the average income is for somebody in their, say, early mid-20s when you used to buy that first house. Probably can't even do it.
I don't think anyone in their early 20s is buying a house right now. It's just
unless the parents help.
Unless the parents help,
they've had some. Unless they're buying a small condo. Again, the condos are in the 4s, right? So if you've got a decent job in your 20s and you're buying a condo just to get your feet wet in home ownership, then I think you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you still want to get in, right? Because I do think the prices are still going to go up. I mean, by the end of this year, we're probably going to be down, which we haven't been down since like 91, 92. I think our average sale price will be down from where we ended last year. Now, I know predictions are it's going to be
But
up.
didn't we go down
So
substantially in
yeah,
January?
so we finished the year at the end of December. Our average sale price was 691,000. By the end of January, our average sale price was 612. But we've since gone up. Since now we look at our average sale price, we're 662. But in order for us to be even, we have to get back up to that 691 where we ended the year. Well, we're starting to get into a little bit more of our slow dry months, right? So it's by the time we get to November, December, our average sale price is actually going down because it's the slow season. So I don't think we're going to get back up to 691. So we will have a down year on our average sale price this year, which is the first time we've been down, since the early 90s. But keep in mind, it was bound to happen. The way our prices, I mean, we peaked in March of last year at 739,000. Now we're at 662. However, we've talked about this ad nauseum every week. That's 662. If we went through a normal market, we'd probably still be in the mid fours, not sixes.
Yeah, we'd be looking at 10 years before we got up to that.
10 years minimum. Like I would think we'd probably be looking at 15 years before our average sale price actually got up to 662. And we did that in a year and a half. So I still think, even though, Frank has people coming in complaining about where the rates are right now. Everyone's complaining about the rates. Everyone's complaining about the prices. I think we've done pretty good over the last 2 years. I think,
as long as you're in the market.
As long as you're in the market, and like I've said, I do feel bad for the people that bought in Jan, Feb, March, and April of 2022, but real estate's a long play. It's a long play. Unless you have to sell, you're doing just fine.
Boy, those people better hope rates come down in the next 5 years.
Well, I think rates are on their way down. I feel like they are. But again, we still got a couple of months. I think September 6th, I don't think Bank of Canada is going to move, but I guess we
What do
shouldn't
we have
be
left for
shocked.
them to make a decision on? There's got to be at least
A
one
CPI
more
report
right?
coming out, probably another jobs report coming out prior to September 6th. So those will be big factors, especially the CPI report.
I think if they raise the rates on the 6th, that'll be tough.
It's already tough. Like honestly, it's
It is
already
tough, yeah.
tough. So
I looked at my commercial mortgage this morning, 8.3%.
Yeah, don't look at it.
I used to watch it. So in commercials,
At its best, when you got the mortgage, it was what?
3.85.
Wow.
3.85 before they started raising the rates, and I was great. I mean, my Canada building was paying for itself. My Orleans building was great. Now, they're steep.
Let me just tell you, Paul, it's a long-term investment.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I overpaid for both my buildings, and I knew I was overpaying, and I wanted that location, so that's why I overpaid. So, but I also knew the length I was going to hold that investment. It was going to be a great investment, and probably within 3 years, I was already like, "What a great investment!"
Yeah, you're ahead of the game now.
I'm
right?
way ahead of the game now. But when I bought it, I mean, I was like, "Whoa, I way overpaid for that." But I wanted the
And now
location.
nobody uses it.
No, now it's pretty much empty. Yeah. Well, my Canada office is thriving. My Orleans office is quite sparse, put it that way.
Yeah.
There's usually about 4 of us in that office, and I have 4,500 square feet in Orleans. We get about 4 people in it.
Wow.
So, anyways, throw a bowling ball down the alleyway, and it wouldn't hit anyone.
So are you anticipating anything getting busier in the next month or two, or are we like in the real doldrums right now?
It all depends on what happens on September 6th. If they raise the rates, I think it's going to be an extremely quiet fall and winter. If they keep the rates the same, if not lower them, which I don't think they're going to lower them, but if they keep them the same, I think the optimism will increase. I think people will get back to purchasing properties. If you can stomach the rates now, you're going to be able to stomach them after the 6th. If they raise those rates, though, it's going to be quiet. Very, very quiet.
It's already tough.
It is tough.
You want.
Yeah.
Even without an increase or staying the same, it's already tough enough. And listen, we're in the lull of our year. Generally speaking, people are now getting their summer vacations out of the way. First 2 weeks of September is all about setting up for school and getting normal back and routines back. So generally speaking, in our industry, it's quiet between now and the middle of September anyway.
Are you busy, Greg? Not really?
Apparently he's busy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're still listing a good number of houses.
Yeah.
I think the sellers are pretty realistic about the season and the time that it is right now, and understanding that, like you talked about last week, like the days on market are getting a little longer, as we're going through this. But yeah, typically this is definitely a quieter time of the year. That being said, I just had the busiest July I've ever worked photographing houses.
Wow.
So again, back to the predictions. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's coming from someone who used to work for how many other agents used to shoot for?
We had about 300.
300 agents in the city that they would be shooting for in his own company. Now he's just shooting for us, and he's had his busiest July.
So where does Paul rank in the 300?
Oh, always number one.
Now, speaking of Greg and taking pictures, we are mid-August.
Yep.
If you're planning on listing in November, December, is it worth getting Greg in now to take those pretty pictures for the summer? Because right now your house looks the best it's going to look.
You're throwing that at me because you know I made this mistake myself, right?
No, I was.
Yes. You definitely want to get us through the door now. We probably have another month and a half, 2 months before the grass starts going a little bit
Right
brown.
now the flowers are perfect.
It's
the
perfect.
Shrubs are perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. So if you have any inclination that you're planning on listing in November, December, January, or February, even October, to be honest with you, get us through the door now. Greg will come take even if your interior is not ready, Greg will still come and take all the exterior photos, do videos. If it permits, do a drone shot. It all depends on where your house is, but you do it now, while your furniture's still out. So I wouldn't, call us in November, December. If you know you're listing now, get us in the door now.
While your pool's still open,
Well,
So it doesn't have to be photoshopped, you mean, to make it look like the cover's off?
So that's how I knew this was going to come back on me because I talk about it all the time. And then I was the idiot who put away all my furniture and then decided I wanted to list my house. So I put all my furniture back out. Greg had to come. The in-ground spa in the backyard was like dirty and brown. He made it look like it was frothing. And
you should really listen to this show.
I really should. I should listen to myself, shouldn't
So,
I?
Greg, besides standing around and just watching you do everything, but taking credit for taking everything out, what else did he do?
No, other than that, he was pretty ready for the interior pictures. He was good to go.
Yeah.
It's just we just had a couple little touch-ups on the outside. It was good.
But that's why now would be the perfect time.
It's ideal. It's ideal time because now is when all the gardens are blooming. Now is when the grass looks the
And you know
best.
what? Even now, if you're not sure you're going to be selling, you never know what the market's going to do. You may run into some hard times in the next few months and go, I didn't plan on this, but I got to sell.
Yep.
Might as well be ready.
Well, there's a lot of people now who have bought new builds that are closing in March, April, May, June of next year. So you're most likely going to hit the market in mid-January. So if you know that's your case, get us through the door so Greg can make it look great. Now, we will still take pictures of the exterior with the snow because we want to make it look like it's been listed at the right time. But at the end of all the pictures, Greg will have all the summer pictures in there as well so people could see what it looks like in the summer. And a lot of people also leave out some sort of flyer or some sort of like a photo album or feature sheet or something like that with those summer pictures so people get to see what it looks like. And if you have a beautiful yard, that's imperative. If you just have a normal yard, maybe not, but if you have a beautiful yard with a pool and landscaping and gardens and all that, get us through now because you're going to want to showcase that. That's super important.
Luckily, you don't have to worry, Frank, because all that concrete looks the same.
Does look the same.
Greg, have you ever shot many homes with 2 kitchens and still have plastic on the furniture like Frank has?
Many.
And they sell fast.
Yes.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Back with Paul Rushforth and Frank Napolitano. Dare I ask about rates? I don't think they changed much this week, did they?
You know what? We were going in the right direction. Bond market went through a 3-day period where the bond yields were coming down, and then on Friday happens, and the bond yields spike right back up. So with a little hope that rates, some of the lenders would start to drop rates a little bit, right back to where we started the week. So every day is a roller coaster with the bond yields. I've never experienced anything like this where generally speaking, you can see the trend and it just goes gradually one way or the other. Where today, these days, what we see is we say the morning with it drop and then the afternoon it goes back up. And it's this roller coaster that we've never experienced. So even the experts, the economists, have no idea what's going on some days.
Are they quick to change rates when that happens?
Oh, wow. They're quick to change when they go up. They're not as quick to change when they go down. But the spreads are very, very healthy for the lenders right now, and they're keeping it that way because they understand that delinquencies are probably going to start to rise. Lots of stories out there, and I read one this morning in the Toronto Star where a gentleman bought his condo, thought it was a good idea to take a variable rate mortgage because his bank convinced him it was the best way to go. And the truth is the bank wasn't wrong at the time. A lot of people thought it was the best way to go. You got the Bank of Canada that's saying that they're going to keep rates low for a long time. So it wasn't a bad move to take he ended up with a prime minus 1.05, and at the time, the prime was at 2.45, so 1.4. He thought that was a great idea. And so anyway, so he's got one of those static payments. So his payments have stayed the same, which he's happy with because he goes, if my payment had gone up, I wouldn't be able to afford the condo. But now he gets a statement, and it doesn't even have years left on it because, unfortunately for the bank, once they hit 50 years, anything above 50 years, it transforms to infinity. So his
it's gonna take you forever
amortization,
to pay off
his
your home.
amortization right now is infinity. So, that's some of the changes
But how-
that I think we're going to see.
They can't keep it that way, though.
No, they can't. Renewal time is when it's going to get tricky because at renewal time, what happens is your mortgage renewal comes in with the original amortization that's remaining. So if you started with the 25-year, now you're going to be down to 20 years. So you're going to get a renewal with a 20-year amortization. But if you've only been making, and in his case, he says, not only, I'm not even covering the interest payments right now. So it's kind of crazy what's going on. But he can't afford to increase the payments either. So he's got to make a decision where hope that the interest rates are low by the time that we get to renewal time, and then hope that there's some changes in the way the rules are so that he doesn't get a renewal with the 20-year amortization piece. His payment will probably double, and if not, maybe go as high as triple. And then at that point, he can't afford it.
So what should people be looking out for at this point if they're renewing in the next year, 2, 3 years?
Well, common sense would say that, people should have enough money to be able to, set that money aside or at least be in a position where they can increase their payments when the renewal comes. But the problem is that with cost of everything being so expensive, people are struggling. And listen, there's people out there that are taking second jobs just to make ends meet. So, for all the rosy pictures that we hear from our government from day to day and how Canadians are, not hurting and they're giving all these rebates, but it's really money they're taking from us first and giving back a portion of it afterwards. So most Canadians are disappointed. Again, if you've owned the home, if you've owned the home, like Paul says, for the last 5-10 years, you've built up some nice equity in your
But
home.
you still have to pay for it, though.
But the equity is only one part of it. You still have to live day to day. And, I've had customers call me that are in trouble and they have a 1.8% mortgage and they're in trouble with their other debt because they're having a hard time making ends meet. And the option for them is not to break that mortgage. It's funny how the bank is quick to say we can blend the rate, but they end up way worse scenario. If you've got a mortgage at 1.8% and you have 2 years left on it, don't touch it.
Oh, no.
Even if you have to take a private mortgage out at 10%, if you do the math on it, you'll see that you're way further ahead that way and leave the 1.8 mortgage the way it is. Because realistically, the 1.8 mortgage is probably 80% of your mortgage amount you're going to need anyway. So,
Frank, you getting a lot of refis right now.
a lot.
But why are people refining with the rates that they are? To afford other debt, or not to renovate houses and things
Credit
like
card at 20% or a mortgage at 7 or 8%? Which
Yeah.
one are you going to do? Or
Yeah,
6%? So again, it comes down to living and having enough money to be able to feed your family. And listen, you can give up the vacations, the dinners out, and entertainment.
that? No.
You can't give up food. Well, no, but you can't give up food. You can't give up the necessities that everybody needs. And even going to a grocery store, it's not cheap. I can tell you, I went to Costco this morning, 11 items, $250. 11 items,
Yeah.
$250. It's not like it used to be.
Yeah, the days of going to the grocery store now and coming out of there under $100 for a couple meals is over.
When were those days?
Wow. Listen, before COVID, the groceries were somewhat reasonable.
Yeah.
Now it's ridiculous. And they're making record profits right now. These
And that's the
grocery stores.
problem. That's where the average person struggles. It's like, here's these companies that are continually make bigger profits year after year, yet Canadians are hurting, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, again, I'm a taxpayer, and I expect my government to protect me from these things. And if anything, they actually add to it.
So, Steve, we have to go to break very soon. But before we go to break, I'll just
He's taking over the show?
I'll
Yeah,
just
the new host.
Well, I'll just rile Frank up a little bit.
Here we
Frank,
go.
what's going on with gas prices?
I don't know. I drive an electric car, so I don't know. I mean, it's cost
$1.70
me,
this morning.
it cost me $450 all year to charge my car. So I'm all year. That's 12 months. I'm good. I'm happy. And
Listen, you can just hear the listeners clicking
Yeah.
off right now.
Yeah.
and 2 buckets of windshield washers, all it's cost me. So now we could talk about that price being crazy because windshield washers off the charts too. So
Yeah, that's my top priority. Damn, that fluid is expensive.
But it's a necessity, right? Yeah. But no, I do agree with Frank. It's almost like a perfect storm right now with rates where they are, prices where they are, food prices, gas prices, everything. I mean, there's a lot of people that are cutting back now. There's no more movies going out. There's no more meals going out. Vacations.
Barbie and Oppenheimer will tell you differently. That
How did you like Barbie? How did you like Barbie?
I have not gone to see Barbie yet.
I heard you went alone. I heard you went alone to Barbie.
Yet.
Greg, you went to Barbie?
Yeah, man, it was excellent.
Please tell me you went with.
I went with a group of friends.
Okay.
I went under peer pressure.
Okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen that. But it turned out
He went with a couple of guys named Frank and Paul.
It was an excellent film.
Let's go to Barbie, said no man ever.
It was your idea, wasn't it, Greg?
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
It was a Friday night. Let's go to Barbie.
You went to meeting women, didn't you? 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Sorry, Frank and I were having such a great conversation.
Seriously. I was like, do you guys want to talk to some listeners out there, or what do you want to do?
We didn't realize we were doing all of this talk without being on the radio. It's so natural. It's unbelievable, eh, Frank? We were talking about divorce and separation, so he had my attention.
Yeah, but we did have an interesting question. Do you want to talk about it, Frank?
Yeah, well, separation, a lot of people don't know that if you go through separation, so generally speaking in Canada, if you refinance your home, you can only refinance to 80% of the value of the home. You can't refinance above that. Where it changes if you're going through a separation, a legal separation where there's a legal document that says that you're getting separated. If that happens, you're able to refinance the home up to 95% of the value of the home, as long as it's clearly stipulated in the separation agreement where the proceeds are going. So you can pay off joint debt as long as it's got to be very clear in a legal separation agreement. It can't be a piece of paper that two people make up and say we're getting separated. That's not the way it works. It's got to be done by a lawyer/notary. But as long as that's in place, then you can refinance to 95%. The challenge today is single income earners qualifying at 95%. So in a lot of scenarios, what we have is this is where parents come in at that point, trying to help, especially if there's kids involved where one of the parties wants to stay in the home to keep the schools consistent. Yep. So in those scenarios, what we get is normally the parents will come in, and in many cases, we can get them as guarantors instead of having to be co-signers. But we got to use their income and their debt load, so hopefully they add strength to the file, not only because of their income, but if they have a good income but a lot of debt, then they may not be assistants at that point. So you
would try and clear that debt when you refinance?
Well, it makes, you've got joint debt and you're going your own separate way. You got to clear the debt, and that's part of the separation agreement that you would include in the separation agreement. But the other part, some people say, why does the bank care so much about a separation agreement? Because it's important to qualify based on the fact of whether you're paying out alimony and or child support or receiving it. So they both count one way or the other. So that's why it's so important to have a separation agreement. For most people, they go through an amicable separation. It's fairly straightforward.
Really?
For most people.
What?
And then there's other people clearly.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Clearly in this room, other people that have gone through a separation that isn't so amicable. And when it's not amicable, or two. But what, two separations that haven't been amicable?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For one person. No, but if it's amicable, it's easy because everyone's on the same page. If it's not, that's where it gets really complicated because, we've had a lot of clients that have called me and said, Frank, I'm living in the house and I'm making the payments, but it's not legally mine. The other person's name is on it because we haven't come to an agreement yet. So, I think people and divorce lawyers might get mad at me, but I think people spend a lot of money on divorce lawyers that they could probably save by just working together, because often what I see happen is you end up very similar to where you would have been anyway, but the lawyers have made so much that now you're actually further in the hole. So
100% agree with that.
But when we're talking about refinancing, that gets pretty expensive on one salary, especially now that homes have gone up by so much.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying in many cases the parents are willing to help at this point, and sometimes there's alimony, child support that really helps as well. So with the income,
we find that I'd probably say estimating here, but maybe 7 out of 10 times they're forced to sell the house.
Yeah,
it just
maybe
doesn't,
even more, right?
Yeah, it could be more. It could be 8 or 9 out of 10 times they're forced to sell the house. And listen,
and then rent. That's the problem.
But then, unfortunately, it's probably 60% of my business is divorce situations, separation situations, which is unfortunate, but it's just that's the reality. And most times, it's someone would love to buy the other person out. But it usually doesn't happen. I mean, they might go down that avenue, but it closes very quick once they realize it's just not feasible and affordable, even with a guarantor as a parent guarantor.
The numbers don't work.
The numbers just don't work. It's too hard.
And it's more difficult now over the last 3 years with how much the home has gone up.
Yes,
You have to
and the
refinance
rates,
that.
and the rates, and trying to carry that on a single income now is tough. And it's a lot of times it's unfortunate because it could be the family home. There's kids involved. They're used to their home, their neighborhood, their friends, and a lot of times I'm sorry, but it's mom and dad don't get along anymore, and we got to sell it. It's an unfortunate situation, and sometimes we go through those where it's really hard to sell too, because the husband and wife, or ex-husband and wife, are not really speaking to each other. One person is super bitter, and they're trying to sabotage the sale.
It takes a special agent to be able to be involved in that situation and try to keep everybody happy, and it's a big nut to crack, isn't it?
It's hard. It's hard. We have a couple situations going on right now where the lady just doesn't really care about the house, and the gentleman would like to lower the price, and she's like, nope. I'm like, well, we've had 2 showings in a month. Nope, doesn't matter. Not lowering the price. And it's just, she's almost trying to sabotage the sale, which is really tough. He wants to get out from under the house, get it sold. And you've got to talk to him, and then you got to talk to her. They can't be in the same room together.
I bet you have agents that specialize in these situations.
Well, we have some that are better than others at it for sure. It takes, you're almost a bit of a counselor in that situation. And, we do have some agents on my team that are just amazing at that. And they can actually bring people together and try to get, cooler heads to prevail and get the right outcome for everybody. But it is hard. It is hard. But like I said, it's probably 60% of my business. So it's like a big chunk of the business is having to massage a divorce situation as they're trying to sell their biggest asset.
Do you think a big chunk of Paul's business is going to be people that can't afford their renewals over the next couple of years as they come up, if rates stay the same?
That's going to be scary for the entire real estate market in our country, unfortunately. So that's why I'm a strong believer that interest rates have to come down, because the damage that would be done to Canadians, it's already being done. And listen, I hate what we do some days, because we've got good, hardworking people that I've got to tell them that I can only put them in an alternate mortgage or a private mortgage because of where interest rates are today, because of their circumstances. And that's not fair to Canadians, because they should be able to qualify through a traditional lender at traditional rates. But because the qualifying is so difficult today, just the entry points of lenders accepting that person. We had one that had a credit score of 560, so no traditional lender will even touch it. But the person's $25 over their limit on one credit card. And because of that, their score is down, and they rely on this score where, myself, when I was learning this business, you learn to read the credit bureau and never mind the score, just look at the credit bureau and just judge someone by what their credit bureau does. By their payment history, by not their usage, because they've used it, because maybe they've booked a trip or something. So this person's got to wait. And my advice is we got to wait 35, 45 days and see if you can make a big payment to get it under the limit. Maybe your score will go back over the 600 so that we can get you through a traditional lender instead of having to go through an alternate lender. So because of that, they got to renew into an open where the banks are at 8 and 9% for that to happen, which again, it's taken advantage of good, hardworking people that just did something that they had no idea would damage them as much as it has.
You ask about, when renewals come up, are people going to be in trouble? We're already seeing that, and that is even before renewals come up. There's a lot of people that we're selling their house right now, and they're going into renters because they just can't afford to own it.
But they're being proactive.
They're being proactive. They're not losing their house. They just can't afford it, so they are selling. The problem being is
rentals, is there?
Well, the problem is rentals are super expensive too. I mean, because the first-time home buyers have been pretty much priced out of the market, so they're not buying the townhomes, the terrace homes, things like that, and they're going into renters. The problem is if you're paying $25, $26, $27, maybe $3,000 a month in rent, plus utilities, plus groceries, plus gas, plus all this, you don't go from a renter to a homeowner very quick. You need to be able to save big time. But how do you save when you're forking out $4,000 a month in rent and utilities? So it's kind of a double-edged whammy here, that where people are, they can't really afford their home right now, so they're having to go into a rental. But the rental rates are so through the roof now that they can't even afford to rent anymore.
But what happens to the market if all of these people run into the same problem over the next 2-3 years?
So we're going to be saturated with listings, which is going to turn that into a buyer's market, which is going to make it really, really slow. Really slow.
Well, not slow, but it's going to devalue people's homes, and
Absolutely.
that's the biggest thing that people care about because that's their biggest asset that they own.
Yeah.
But
They
Frank,
want
it
to
will-
see their asset maintain value. That's all they want.
But it will slow it down. I mean, when you have a flood of homes on the market, like you take a look at our days on market back in 2014, 15, 16, 17 compared to where they are now. I mean, days on market at one point, I remember we were about 7 months on market was the days on market. It was astronomical. It was a tough sell. I remember I went through all my stats and all my numbers one time, and I think it was in 2014 or 15. Our expiry rate was about 30%. So 30% of all our listings expired. And where that becomes tough when you're the business owner and a realtor like myself is you pay for all the expenses up front.
Yeah.
And you don't get paid until you do your job and sell the property. Well, if we're listing 500-600 homes a year and 30% are expiring, which means I paid Greg a lot of money to go take pictures back then. And
At least you have the pictures, you know?
Yes, I do. I have the pictures, but those markets were really, really tough too, because when 3 out of 10 homes are expiring, you're 3 out of 10 times you've spent money advertising, marketing, photos, everything that we do to get a home ready to sell. If that doesn't sell, I've lost all that money, and that was happening back then. Now not quite as much.
What are we now, about a month?
We're about 26 days, yeah. So we're just under a month, which is, like I've talked about this before, where people are like, oh, it's getting really slow. Well, in 2014 and 2015, if I would have told you days on market were 26, you would have been really excited.
In a normal market, 3 months?
Yeah, in the normal market. So you're still in a seller's market at 3 months because 0 to 4 months is a seller's market. So you're in a bit of a late seller's market teetering into a balanced market. So a normal market, you're probably anywhere between 3 and 5 is really what a normal market is. Over the last 2-3 years, even 4 or 5 years, we've been really lucky.
Yeah.
Buyers not as much, but we've been really lucky with how healthy the market has been.
But the market changes so fast now. You can go from a month to 3 months in weeks.
My favorite word going through COVID was fluid. We were in a fluid market. You just didn't know week to week what was going to happen. Are we going to get flooded with listings? Or are we going to have no listings? Are things going to sell for 100,000 over asking or 10,000 over asking? So we're back to a little bit more normal. We can kind of predict what's going to happen. Whereas going through that COVID market the market was so fluid. It was insane, but I don't think we'll see that again. I think we're going to, this is normal. I joked last week, there's some realtors that got into the business during COVID. And I've talked to them now, and they're like, wow, tough market, eh? And I'm like, no, this is a normal real estate market. It's not a tough market. And listen, I'm a big believer in realtors need to earn their keep. They need to show their value in order to get paid. And we are showing our value. All realtors are showing their value in a market like this. Because
All good ones.
Well, yeah, but, I'd like to say that, there's a good chunk of agents that are just showing their value right now, and they're earning their keep. They're earning their money, and they have to.
Yeah.
And isn't that the way the world should be? You have to earn what you get, and I think during COVID, it was just that much easier for us, and, things were selling. But like we talked about during COVID, there's a difference between something selling for asking price or $100,000 over asking price. So we were still earning our keep during COVID. We were just trying to get as much money as possible for those sellers. It's just, it was a little bit easier back then. Like now, the marketing, the advertising, your photos, everything you do in order to get a home sold, it's like a spotlight's on
And
that
affordability of the people looking.
Yeah, absolutely. And the affordability. Yeah.
You know what the best investment is right now? Taylor Swift tickets.
Oh, God.
Really?
You have a couple of
Really?
those tickets, boy, you got a down payment.
I bet you some people are
agree
using
with
that as an investment. They're
Yeah,
going to sell them.
I'm sure. 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back with Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth. Boy, I can't believe how quickly time is flying. People are already thinking about getting into their home before Thanksgiving, and soon it'll be Christmas.
Yep.
You got to plan ahead.
Well, you do. Where were we? Where were we yesterday? Costco, where they had
Halloween out. I was there
Halloween.
this morning. Halloween stuff's all over the
Halloween's
place at
out.
Costco.
Halloween stuff's out. But yeah, getting back to your question, yeah, like if you want to get in before the end of the year now, it's time to move. I mean, because the average closing day is usually anywhere between 60 to 120 days. So if you're trying to get in before the snow flies, you got to do soon. And if you're trying to get in before the end of the year, you need to be buying relatively soon or selling relatively soon.
As a seller, how long could you anticipate it to take by the time you get your house ready, pictures done, listed on the market and then hopefully sold?
Well, one thing that we do is we always pre-market our properties. So we don't go take a listing and hit on the market the next day. We want to make sure we give Greg time to get in there, get the photos, do some pre-marketing, social media, get some attention, some eyeballs on your property before it even hits the market. We put a coming soon sign so people are starting to talk about it. So that usually takes, if you're ready to go, it'll usually take about 7 days to get you on the market. Now, we could do it quicker, but if you want us to do a bang-up job, we want to take as much time as we can to
How
get
do
it.
you know if the house is ready to go?
Well, we'll let them know. I mean, we're most of us have been inside thousands and thousands of homes, and we'll know when a house is ready to go. A lot of times it's just little cosmetic things that need to be fixed up. So we might get you to look at the paint, decluttering, smelling, make sure the house smells good. Just little things like light fixtures. We'll get you ready to hit the market, and we won't let Greg go through the door until you are ready.
But if I'm thinking of listing mid-September, should I get you in now to tell me what to do?
Now, yep. Get us in now. Now, if you're a house that there's nothing to do, well, you don't have to get us in now. But if you have some ideas of what you need to do, or you want some ideas on what you should do to get your home sold or to get it prepared, get us in sooner than later. We'll come through the door. We'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get top dollar for your home. We'll talk about what's happening in the market and specifically what's happening in your area and your product. You know, if you're someone who's in an area that has a lot of homes for sale, you have to anticipate that it's going to take a little longer to get your home sold. But if you're in an area it's a fast-selling product, you know it's going to sell fairly quickly, then yeah, I mean you do have a little bit more time. But
I wouldn't know any of that unless I talk to you.
That's why you have to talk to a professional. That's why you get us through the door. We'll tell you exactly what needs to happen and get you prepared for your photos. Because I always say the photos are the most important thing. It's more important than the showings because the photos are what's going to get people through the door. And if you're not ready for your photos and they don't look great, you're not going to get the people through the door. Even if your house does look good, the photos are super, super, super important. And, you know, that's one thing that my agents tell the clients when they're leaving the house is, guys, I can't tell you how important these photos are. And you have to be ready because, you know, Greg does, you can explain what you do, how you know, if there's one thing in the room, they're like, well, I'll just move this. And then, you know.
Yeah, what I always what I tell our agents to tell the sellers when they're talking to them is you got to treat when I'm coming in for the photos, the video, the 3D walkthrough tours, this is your first showing. You got
more important than your first showing.
You got to think of it as I am the buyer that's coming in. You wouldn't be following a buyer around going, oh, I'll just move this while you take the photo and then I'll put it back. No, it's got to be how you want it to present it out to the public.
Yeah, super, super important. The photos are absolutely everything, and that's why it's so important. So if you're ready, we get you listed. You know, we take anywhere from 5, 6, 7 days to get your house ready to hit the market. You hit the market. It all depends on where you are, what your product is to determine how fast it's going to sell. So we'll go through the market with you and say, okay, you're a townhouse in Riverside South. Here's how many comparables you have. Here's what's happening in the market. Here's where we expect how long it's going to take. Here's where we need to price it. And here's what we need to do to get you top dollar for your home. If all that is ready to go, we'll get you sold as soon as we can.
And if you're anticipating any trouble in this market, first call's to you, Frank, to see if it's doable, and second call to Paul to see if you have to get out.
You need to. Like you need to know where your financial status is before you do anything. Like there's no sense calling a realtor if you're not sure of what your financial status is moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wishing doesn't help. I mean, the reality is the reality.
And
right?
thinking like 3 years ago, 4 years ago doesn't help either because everything has changed. It really has.
Birthdays.
Just want to say, did get a comment from a listener saying, appreciate listening to the show because you guys are honest and don't fluff everything. So
Perfect.
You know, if you're looking for a show where everybody fluffs what the stats are out there and stuff, don't listen to us because we're not the show for that.
Wow.
So
I
that's
like
just
it.
not
Open
us.
House, the real estate mortgage show.
Yeah,
no
that's just-
fluff.
No fluff.
Like we say it like it is, and if it's negative, it's negative. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, today people are struggling.
Yeah.
That's the reality, period. So Bob Verdun from our office celebrating his birthday. Simmer, Sean Simpson, our buddy Sean Simpson celebrated his birthday this week. And shout out to Lindsay Willette and Chris, who had their baby this week, friends of ours. And we had the pleasure of being at Ashley and Mac's wedding last night, and we had a blast. So congrats to them, too.
And you know what? You look remarkably good for the day after a wedding.
That was a long night.
I do have a couple. My girlfriend who's here with me today, it's one of her best friends, Stephanie Applejohn. It's her birthday on next Sunday. Frank and I will not be here next week because I don't think we are we?
Why not?
Well, I'm not. I think Barb's doing the show. Dora's doing the show for
I
me.
don't think they are. I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, Dora's doing the show for me next week, and so I won't have a chance to wish my father a happy birthday.
Aw.
Next Sunday, the 19th, will be my dad's 81st birthday. So
Wow.
happy birthday, Dad.
Wow. And he still loves you.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's ask him. Let's
Yeah.
call him next week. Let's ask him.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. Support local businesses and charities.